ever struggle with fear? I know that I do. It's something that I've really had to work on in my life, or it would kind of take over and I wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. Fear is one of those interesting dynamics that doesn't play by normal rules. And what I mean by that is fear grows faster than even weeds with a lot of rain, because fear grows exponentially, which is it doubles its size every time you give into it. And so learning how to approach your fear and how to work with it is an important part, I think, of being a human. In this video, I'm going to show you some things that we've been working on with the horses to try and help you figure out how to handle your fear. So we use an acronym here, that's FEAR, F-E-A-R, and the F stands for face it, which means to orient toward it. Say there was a snake down here on the ground. My F would be to orient towards the snake, to look at it. The E would be to explore. So I have a huge fear of snakes, and it's one of the things that I've really had to work on, is really exploring information about snakes, because a lot of the information I had was really just wrong. It was incorrect, and it was really feeding and fueling my fear. And so I set out to conquer this fear by learning more and more about snakes in general, rattlesnakes specifically, because that's one of the snakes that I have a huge fear of. And I did that in a very specific way, which we did a lunch and learn about, which I'll post in the link here so y'all can look at that too. I won't go over that information again here. But I want you to understand that the E is to explore or learn about. And then A is to assess the likelihood of harm. So if there was a snake in my vicinity, let's say 15 feet away from me, and it was a snake about this long, then that snake, it has no chances of harming me. It can't strike 15 feet away. And if I'm not bothering it, it's not going to bother me. And I have plenty of room to get away. So I'm assessing my likelihood of harm. And then the R is to respond with all the new information that you have. So you've oriented towards it, that is, you've faced it. You've explored what it is that you're worried about with this. And so with my fears of snakes, it's worrying about getting hurt. And then I assess the likelihood of that, and then I respond given all this new information. And that's how we teach people how to conquer their fears. That's the way I handle conquering my own fears. And that's what we do with the horses. So in this video, you're going to see the horses learning about bubbles for the very first time. We're going to make some bubbles, and the horses are going to get to explore them. Now, bubbles are sort of hard to explore because they appear suddenly and disappear suddenly. And so that's quite a challenge for them. But you will notice in the video how the horses go through this process. They orient towards the bubbles, they explore them, that is, they learn about them. They learn that they suddenly appear, disappear, that they pop, that they can touch them, that they shine, that they create all kind of shimmery things. And then they assess the likelihood of getting hurt by the bubbles, and then they respond using all that information. So that's what you'll see in this video. We hope that as you learn this process of fear, F-E-A-R, that you start to combat your own concerns that you have in the world. And if you do, we suggest that you start with a concern that's not your greatest concern. So you start to learn the process. And then as you really learn the process, then you can apply it to the things that really scare you. Like for me, rattlesnakes. My fear of rattlesnakes has decreased considerably using this process. So I highly recommend it. If you're struggling in your life with fear, reach out to us because we'd really love to help you. Ari is creating bubbles for the horses to look at, and this is the first time that Iris has seen bubbles. And so she orients towards them, and she starts to approach them. You can see that she starts immediately to explore the bubbles. She touches them, she touches the wand, she watches them. So she's just gathering information about the bubbles. When her nervous system is too activated, she just moves her head away and manages her arousal in that way. Now you can see that she immediately re-engages and watches the bubbles. Now Kai starts to come up and he watches the bubbles from a distance. He wants to learn by watching Iris with the bubbles. He doesn't want to approach them as quickly as she did. And this is a difference in learning styles between Iris and Kai. Kai's a watcher and Iris is a doer. She likes to really be involved. Kai is still watching from afar, but he starts to approach and get a little closer. And in the background you can see Juno and Cash coming up to explore the bubbles as well. Juno, much like Iris, comes right up to the bubbles to learn about them and explore them, while Kai watches from afar, comes closer, and then stops, and then watches again. So Kai, as he's learning about the bubbles, is really managing his safety and assessing whether he is going to get hurt by these bubbles. And he learns whether he's going to get hurt by how his sisters, Juno and Iris, are handling the bubbles and that they're not getting hurt. So he knows his likelihood of harm is not very big. So Kai uses this information and responds differently to the bubbles and starts to explore them with his sisters. So this is how we want our horses to respond. We want them to orient towards the fear, to explore it, to assess the likelihood of harm, and then to respond with all of that new information.